Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and this is episode 2 of the University Diaries episodes, and today we're going to be talking about a more difficult topic, which is how to overcome loneliness at university. So a lot of people say, that university is like the best years of your life, but I think it doesn't always start that way. I think a lot of people talk about all the new friends and then new freedom and new experiences, but I don't think people actually talk about at the start of actually how lonely university can be. So if you've ever walked around campus and you've just felt really alone, or you just feel like you hang out with people and you just feel excluded, and some days you just feel completely invisible, and I know it's hard, but I think there are practical ways of trying to work around loneliness, and these points that I'm about to share, it's not gonna get rid of loneliness for good, but I do think that incorporating some of these things can really help you get through uni. And also remember that loneliness is a very natural human feeling. We all want to have social connection. We're social beings, we're social animals technically, and it's okay to feel lonely, and I think it's actually quite good that you feel lonely, because you are desiring to talk to people and meet people. So don't necessarily label loneliness as a bad thing. I actually think it can be quite used to be quite a positive thing, and I'm gonna tell you why with these next points that I'm gonna share. So yeah, let's get straight into this video. If you've already had a rough day, then come on, let's sit down and come and get a good cup of tea. I have green tea today in my lovely croissant mug. So yeah, come and join me for this video, and let's talk about some practical tips. So for number 1 of this video on how to overcome loneliness as a university student is to definitely prioritize who's in your inner circle. I heard the quote, the 5 people that you hang out with most are the people you average become. Like, if you hang out, for me, I found if I hanged out with people who swore or gossiped a lot, I found that they influenced me, and I ended up swearing and gossiping a lot. And as a Christian, those were values that I didn't align with. I think you are shaped by the people you surround yourself with. If you hang out with people who don't study well, or they aren't productive and they're constantly distracted, then they will lead you away from your studies, and you might notice that your grades start to slip too. I think really evaluate the people who are currently in your inner circle and really question how they make you feel. Do they leave you feeling positive, or do they make you feel insecure and make you feel like really drained socially? And also, like, what habits do they give you? Are they making you become disrespectful towards others? Are they making you become unproductive? Really evaluating that and really recognizing the people who are good for you and who aren't. For me, my inner circle includes a lot of friends who have deeper conversations with me about life. I appreciate people who ask me generally how I'm doing, and they want to hear my struggles. I really found at uni a lot of university friendships were very shallow. They didn't want to talk about problems and life. I feel like it was very much leave your burdens at the door, only time to have fun, and then when you leave you have to pick up your burdens again. And I really didn't like those friendships where I had to pretend that nothing was wrong. And I think a lot of my inner circle is people who I can talk to, really rant about stuff, and I think they can do the same with me. Friendship just grows so much more stronger, and they can really show up and support you the way that you want them to. I just really value that, because it just makes university life so much better. You can even talk to those friends about being lonely, and they would support you. I think if you hang out with the wrong people and you mention to them that you feel excluded, and if they make you feel bad, or they just ignore that, then they clearly didn't really care about you. And I think it's important to know that if you do feel lonely, that you should be able to tell your friends, and you should be able to be honest with people. So yeah, for number 1, just definitely evaluate the people in your inner circle, and you don't have to justify why you have to let people leave, or if you have to remove people, because at the end of the day, it's your peace and it's your university life. For number 2 of dealing with loneliness as a university student is to definitely not just put all your eggs in one basket and focus on who's at university to be friends with. I think really going to different environments and finding new people. A really good example is the people that you live with. For me, I have 5 people that I live with, and they are people that I see every day. You see them make disastrous meals, you see them doing their hobbies, and you see them doing study, and you sort of get to know them through their lifestyle and through their behaviour, but I think there's some really great friendships that you can get out of them. I really enjoy eating dinner with my flatmates just because, it feels like being at home again around the dinner table, and I guess because we're all similar age, I really enjoyed, the fact that it felt like I was with my siblings again. You can really all laugh about, silly things like overcooking something, burning something, or it was just really funny just seeing us all learn uni life together. And I think they're also really great people to go and try stuff with. For example, I really wanted to go and try the gym, and so one of my flatmates came with me, and now we just go for a gym session every week, and our friendship has really grown, and it's someone I can talk to after a really long day. And if I haven't talked to anyone at uni, it's nice to come back to the flat and have people to talk to. Even if you feel like you don't have friends at uni, I think it's really comforting knowing that you can be like, oh, I can go and tell my flatmate about this when I get back. So yeah, really try and go to new places and new people, and focus on the people that you have already around. I think another really great one for new environments is to try societies. I feel like for me, when I first came to uni, I went to go and try church because I never went to church when I was at home, just because my family aren't religious. And I threw myself in the deep end. I went to church and I really discovered, a lot of these people have similar values to me. They really want to make a difference in the world. They had food banks and they were trying to raise money for the homeless, and they were helping people in debt, and we all really loved Jesus. And I think that's what made uni really great, because I felt like I had a second family to see every Sunday. I've had people invite me around for dinner just because, me being honest with my struggles with that community, they were really encouraging me on, and they were like, well, if you ever feel lonely, like, feel free to come around to our house. And really finding those people, just, it makes uni life incredibly easier. Like, you have people outside of uni that you can connect with and you can socialize with. I think a lot of people think, having no uni friends means, that's it, you're not going to have any friends, but any social connection is incredibly important. A lot of people from church vary from being little kids to all the way being a lot older, and they've already gone through uni. And having friends of different ages is really great, because you can develop that social skill, meeting people from different backgrounds, different ages, different jobs. You learn a lot about people, and I think it makes you appreciate the world more, to be more inclusive and more encompassing. Another great example of trying new environments and meeting new people is that I started volunteering at a hospital charity. I really value the fact of trying to make a difference in the world and helping people who are in need. So when I started volunteering at this charity shop, I met lovely people who really wanted to make a difference too. We were all about creating a really kind and generous setting and community. It gave me something after uni to go to, and I knew that I could also talk to them about uni, and they were like, oh well, yeah, well, my uni experience sucked too. And it's just, you actually find that a lot of people older than you also might have experienced loneliness, and they survived. They're living evidence that they've survived the loneliness period of uni. Just go and meet new people, say hi. Go and say hi to that classmate that you thought was really cool. Go to that coffee shop, and if you like someone's jumper, say, yeah, that's a really lovely jumper, I hope you have a nice day. Any social connection will just make you feel a lot better, and it will make you feel less lonely. For number 3 of this video on how to overcome loneliness as a student is to do activities that fuel your soul. So for example, I feel like going on walks, even though whether that's with people or by myself, I find that it really clears my mind. And I think just looking at nature, just looking at the beauty of the world, just really makes your problems feel so much smaller. And I think it's nice to zoom out. Sometimes at uni you're so focused on what you're doing, you're so focused on what other people are thinking, and then as soon as you step out in nature, it's like, it's just so much more calming, and it calms down your body, and you can just take a deep breath, and you know that it'll be okay. I think it's really grounding. And even if you don't do walking and you do a creative activity, for example, you really love reading a book, if reading a book helps you escape into another world for a little bit, and it makes you happy, then you should keep reading. You should incorporate into your uni routine. I feel like sometimes when I'm early to a lesson, I'll just get out a book, and instead of feeling awkward that I'm stood by myself on a corridor, reading a book just makes me feel like I'm being productive, It also includes something I enjoy when I don't have time to do it most days. It also helps me like focus my mind before the lesson. I feel like my brain's already like warmed up, ready to go in. So yeah, just definitely just keep trying to include all the things that you enjoy, and even when you feel down, you know, it's incredibly important that you keep doing it. You know, I think people say, you know, depression can't hit a moving target, so you know, keep on exercising, keep on showing up for yourself. If you don't show up for yourself either, you're making yourself feel even more unworthy. So just keep showing up, keep doing all the things that you love, bake that cake, go for a run, read that book, go to that knitting class, or go and try it and get some painting equipment. Even though you don't know how to paint, at least you know you're doing something that fuels your soul. So yeah, that's number 3, just keep doing stuff that fuels your soul. For number 4 of how to make loneliness actually a positive thing is to use that empty time, similar with the hobbies, to really improve yourself. If you feel like you currently swear a lot and you feel like that's something you don't want to do anymore, then you can use that time to, you know, be an influence on yourself. I think really learning to love your own company first is really important, because then when people do come in your life, you know what you like and what you dislike, you know what is hurtful to you and what crosses boundaries. You know, you sort of have more discernment on whether someone's good for you or not when you really know the ins and outs of yourself. And I think it also helps you be a better friend to others when you know what you like and dislike. When you keep shifting your identity to whoever you're with, I think it can be really hard for friendships to develop because you're not being your true authentic self. So definitely use this time of loneliness to really just focus on what you want to do and what you want to improve on. I think for me, you know, using that time to study and, you know, actually get better at music production was really great, because I had more time to go to the library. I feel like studying by myself was more productive because then people wouldn't distract me or talk to me. I think, you know, just, you know, learn about yourself, and you have the money, you know, if you don't have people to hang out with, you know, you're technically saving money, so you can use that money to invest in you. You know, if you're an athlete and you have a sports degree, you know, you can invest in that new sports equipment or new sport clothes, because, you know, you don't have as many friends to be paying drinks for or be paying, you know, like birthday presents or Christmas presents. You have the time to really invest in your future, I guess. Self-improvement doesn't look like you have to improve every aspect about yourself. It's just more, I guess, giving the love that you are holding for others to yourself, because you are a person too that needs love and care. You know, the more that you align with yourself and you look after yourself, I think the more you respect yourself, and therefore you won't let others disrespect you. You won't tolerate things like you used to. I think I used to not like myself that much, and therefore I would hang out with people, and, you know, people always say you accept the love that you deserve, and I think the more that you love yourself, the more you're calling for a higher level of friendship. You're calling for people who are more respectful, and that's actually a really positive thing. So yeah, loneliness doesn't have to be a negative thing. I know it feels really down and awful when you're actually in a lonely period, but you can always shift it and put a positive spin on it and really make use of your time. Being alone is actually quite a privilege, you know. Some people say when you get into a relationship, like a romantic one, you know, that's like the last time sort of that you'll be single. So, you know, I think you should really take loneliness as a blessing rather than a curse. So for number 5 of this video on how to overcome loneliness as a uni student is to, I think this one might not be something that everyone can relate to, but I've put down on my notes, talking to God. God made me feel like, you know, I was giving my struggles to someone who was looking at me from above, like he knew what was going to happen in my life. He's already written my story. And I think the fact that the Bible always tells me you are loved, you are chosen, you are a child of God, you know. I have a father who incredibly wants to be a part of my life. I feel like for me, God really chose to be my friend first. And I know to some non-religious people it might sound really crackers and I guess a bit silly, or even a bit like, you know, a bit sad because I'm hanging out with a God that's not physically here on earth. But honestly, I think the more I grew in my friendship with God, the more I felt less insecure and less desperate for human friendships. And I think, you know, the more I prayed about it, the more he brought me people who aligned with me. I think it's quite funny because when I did pray for him to bring me friends, he did bring me a lot more Christian friends than he did non-Christian. You know, iron sharpens iron, and he really did give me those friends that really sharpened me in my faith. I really thank God for, you know, being here for me during my lonely periods. And I think if you are religious and you have God, you know, I really do encourage you to talk to him, because he's ready to listen to you and he's waiting for you with open arms, and he's willing to listen more than any of your friends are. And so for the last point of this video on how to overcome loneliness at uni is to just not lose hope. I think after my first year, when I felt really lonely and I hadn't progressed with making friends, you know, I thought, this is it, I think I'm just gonna quit uni. But I came back for a second year, and I feel like the friendships at church that I had really grew. The people that I met at societies, their friendships really grew. And then, you know, the more time I worked on myself, the relationship with myself really grew. My relationship with God grew. And then I started attracting more people who were like me, and then those friendships grew. You know, it's sort of an upward spiral. It's so crucial to include all of these points. You know, be friends with who you live with. Don't be afraid to meet new people and try new environments. Protect your inner circle, because that correlates to how you protect your peace, and to do activities that fuel your soul, you know, making sure that you're a happy person and that you're healthy and that you have time to do all the things that you love. Your life isn't just dependent on other people. You have your own plans, you have your own moments of enjoyment. All types of social connection are important, whether that's, you know, the place of worship that you go to, whether that's societies that you go to, whether it's the lady in the coffee shop that you talk to, if it's a stranger you meet on a walk, or, you know, it's the bus driver. We all have times of loneliness, and I think social media doesn't help. So I do recommend limiting your time on social media and being more present in your world, and then you'll be less focused on what's happening in other people's worlds. So yeah, I hope something from this video helped you. You know, if you are currently in a really difficult period of loneliness, that you can apply some of these things, and hopefully you might see a real difference in how you view uni, how you view people, and how you view yourself. I really hope, you know, that it does get better for you, and I really do pray for all the people watching, that you know that you will be blessed with your people and you will find real joy and happiness in those friendships. I hope you all have a really good day. If you've got uni on today, then I wish you the best of luck. You are a soldier for keeping on going, and I promise you it will get better. There's loads of people that can't wait to meet you. So yeah, don't lose hope. You know, you've got this. I hope you have an amazing day. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Bye!